NASA ball. A lot of people getting their pictures taken. All right, Space Shuttle Atlantis. Won't see any space shuttles using these anymore. How do you launch a revolution? You dance.
In just a few minutes, the doors will open.
All right, we got Atlantis. Big boom arm. Very cool. Yep, reusable spacecraft. Unfortunately, now that they are retired, there is no replacements. This is a main engine. Yeah, you just gotta imagine all that flame shooting out of this thing. Extreme temperatures. Showing the temperatures of different things. The hidden power. It's the power head and the nozzle. You see the space shuttles have 3 of those extremely powerful engines. 2.5 million parts. 26 years and 33 missions. You can see all the heat shield tiles. Look at that. Built by Shuttle. All those pieces came up on the space shuttles. Got ham radio. Right there. Onboard computer. You gotta think, early 80s, this was state of the art. Had to be a compact design. The waste collection system. Or toilet. Yep. You gotta be strapped in. Hold on. That's where you did your business. This is what the inside of the shuttle cockpit looked like.
Don't touch it. I'm gonna sit in. No, Nick, look.
Other side.
I'm sitting in here. Nick, I'm sitting in here. Flip the switch. Ready? Over. We're gonna exit. Over. Damn, man. Switches. Okay, going up, going up. We're going up. Going up, guys.
Built to haul. Keeping her cool.
Look at this. Nick, look.
A need for speed. Orlando to London in under 15 minutes. Man, that'd be nice. Science around the world and around the clock. Falling at 17,500 miles per hour. It's like a human-shaped spacesuit.
It's gotta be a snap-on, right? Oh, snap-on, yeah.
Space tuxedo. Spacewalking. Space flown toolbox. Go. Not your dad's tools. A heck of a big leap.
What do you mean he's short?
There we go. So when they weren't tethered to anything, relying on their backpack. It's the Hubble Space Telescope. This is a recreation. Telescopes and time machines. Saving Hubble mattered. A bit of view of the past from the future. So go for deorbit burn. All right, downstairs you got winging it. And hey, grade schoolers. I'm not a grade schooler, but you know, it's information. Like that. Yeah. It's the mock-up space shuttle right there. That's a 1/15 scale replica. Very nice. I know because I read it right here. Look at that, man. Check out, these tires flew. Wow, these actual real flight tires. Wow. To show you how much security was involved. Wow, look at that, man. Fleet of vehicles. Shuttle carrier aircraft. Just the 6 shuttles. Got Enterprise. Columbia. Yeah, so solid rocket boosters, there were 2 of them. These were return to Earth by parachute. Could not be shut down after ignition. We got the replica Hubble Space Telescope down below. You saw from above area. And this is the actual airstream that the astronauts took. Get a nice comfortable ride. Also have astronaut training simulators. Landing the orbiter, working the robotic arm, docking to the station, landing the orbiter. The Space Shuttle Tunnel Adapter Truss Assembly. Ooh. Imagine going through all these, man, with zero gravity. Oh man. When you exit this building to the Shuttle Express gifts. So it's going to have all sorts of stuff for Atlantis. Unlike the gift shop where I got my hat, this one is more Atlantis themed. Of course, there's lots of different NASA stuff here as well. Alright, so restroom locations right before you get into the Atlantis building. And of course there's restrooms in all the buildings. Alright, bus tour, go behind the gates. Alright, so we are on the bus. Let's see where the bus takes us. Behind the scenes tour.
My name is Tom and I'll be taking you out to the Apollo Saturn V. I do ask that you remain seated while the bus is in motion. There is no eating or drinking on the bus with the exception of water and caffeine-free Diet Pepsi.
That's a good one right there. It's the building we were just in, the Atlantis building.
Looking down to your right, you can see a rocket down there. That is a Mercury Redstone rocket. Now that is the same type of rocket that America's first astronaut, Alan Shepard, was aboard on when he went into space on May the 5th, 1961.
Becoming the first American in space.
Hi, I'm Janet Petro, and welcome to NASA's John F. Kennedy Space Center, where NASA astronauts have ventured forth on flights of exploration since the 1960s. And what an exciting time to visit our multi-user spaceport. Through our commercial crew program, we are sending astronauts to the International Space Station from American soil for the first time since the Space Shuttle program ended in 2011. We're continuing to launch new research experiments and supplies to the space station with our commercial resupply services and launching the most technologically advanced scientific instruments to date into space through our Launch Services program. This all culminates in our ultimate mission, the Artemis program, where NASA will return to the moon, this time with the first woman and first person of color, and continue on to Mars. In all our history, there's been one common theme woven throughout our DNA. It's our insatiable desire to explore beyond our home planet in our never-ending quest to expand our knowledge of the universe. As you venture behind the gates, you'll find a community of the most talented, dedicated, motivated workforce anywhere in the world who believe in the unlimited potential of space exploration. This is an active spaceport where new things are happening every day. You never know what you might see, so enjoy your tour.
It is one of the largest buildings in the world by volume, and is the place where NASA completes the final assembly of its rockets before launch. The sheer scale of this building is hard to grasp, even when you're right next to it.
Do you ever feel really small when you think about space? What about when you're standing next to a skyscraper or a really big bridge? Well, I feel about as small as an ant right now. I'm standing inside the vehicle assembly building trying to grasp how large it really is in here. It has 4 bays. Each bay has 2 large horizontal doors below it and 7 smaller vertically opening doors above it, tall enough to fit the world's largest rocket through. In fact, these are the largest doors in the world.
Construction of the VAB required 65,000 cubic yards of concrete, 45,000 steel beams, 1 million steel bolts amounting to almost 100,000 tons of steel. Notice the flag painted on the outside of the VAB? It's the size of a 21-story building. The blue section alone is the size of an NBA basketball. Each star is 6 feet across, and each red and white stripe is wide enough for this bus to drive down. And the entire VAB? It's so huge that the Roman Colosseum would fit on the roof with room to spare for a parking lot. By volume, the VAB can fit 3.5 Empire State Buildings, and it would take 250 billion ping pong balls to fill it. It was built in the 1960s for the Apollo program. Every Saturn V rocket that sent humans to the moon was assembled right here. Every space shuttle mission also assembled within these same walls. After the space shuttle program, a major renovation to the inside of this building began to accommodate NASA's next generation of rockets, the Space Launch System, or SLS. Lockheed Martin has developed a capsule called Orion that will sit atop the SLS rocket. This capsule is designed to facilitate human exploration of the moon and eventually Mars.
Engineer.
Now looking up here in front of us to the left of the vehicle assembly building, you see a tall, thin structure. That is a mobile launch platform that was built for NASA's rocket, the Artemis. Now the Artemis 1 did launch last year in November. It had an Orion capsule on top of it that went to the moon, orbited the moon, then left the moon's orbit, went 50,000 miles deeper into space, did some maneuvering around out there, then came back to the moon, went back into orbit, and then finally left the moon's orbit and came back to Earth, where it splashed down off the coast of California. NASA considered the Artemis 1 and that Orion capsule very successful first flights. Now Artemis 2 will launch next year in November. It'll do exactly what Artemis 1 did with one exception. It will have astronauts on board. They won't land on the moon until Artemis 3, which would launch in the year 25, which is toward the end of that year. And that will be taking cargo and astronauts to the moon in Artemis 3.
That's pretty cool.
Now I do have a video about the crawlers that I'll play for you. I'd like to point out the crawler to you first before I start the video. The crawler, one of them has been refurbished and modified so it can handle the extra weight of this new mobile launch platform that was built for the Artemis. So that crawler would come over, drive underneath that launch platform, put it inside the vehicle assembly building, and then once they had finished assembling the rocket onto it, they would go back inside, pick it up, the launch platform and the rocket, and take it out to the launch pad and set it down on pedestals. And then the crawler would leave the launch pad and go to a staging area on the crawler way and wait until the rocket was launched. And then it would go back onto the launch pad, pick that mobile launch platform up and bring it back here. Now the crawler does not get very good fuel mileage. Its fuel mileage is 32 feet to the gallon.
Wow. All right, we got here. We go inside now.
Adventure mankind has ever undertaken.
When I was a kid, I used to dream about flying through space. Every week on TV, I'd watch my heroes as they jumped into their rocket ships and took to the stars. And I wanted to be like them. They had courage, imagination, and no problem ever stood in their way for long. And in the end, when we actually did send men into space, it turned out that those were exactly the qualities it took. I'm John Hudson. This is Pad 39 at the Kennedy Space Center. I was a launch controller here when from this very spot, man took off to fly to the moon. It was a journey that began 12 years before that rocket ever left the ground. And it started on the other side of the world. Back then, we were one of two superpowers that always seemed to be on the edge of a terrible war. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first ever man-made satellite into Earth orbit. They called it Sputnik, which means traveling companion. In a world where peace hung in a delicate balance, it seemed to create a dangerous advantage. Every ham radio operator in America could hear it beeping. People were afraid. Were the Soviets looking down on us? Watching us? If they could make a satellite pass over our cities, could they do the same with a bomb? Our own space program kicked into high gear, and less than 2 months later, we were ready to launch our own satellite. Space race, and we were running a distant second. In 1961, we fell even further behind. Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man into space, circling the world in just 89 minutes. We had our own astronauts, and they were eager and ready to take the big ride. but our manned space program couldn't seem to get off the ground. We stuck with it, and on May 5th, 1961, things finally started going right. Astronaut Alan Shepard took his ship Freedom 7 6.5 miles into space. America had its first space hero. Just a few days later, our space program received a new challenge. But this one did not come from the Soviet Union. It came from our young president. In one inspiring moment, he changed the mission from one based in fear of the present to one of hope for the future.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Bryce play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
We hadn't been more than 16 minutes into space, and now we were going to the moon. We would have to design a rocket the size of a 36-story office building, put it together with the precision of a microscope, and accelerate it to the speed of a bullet. Then we would have to guide it to a moving target 250,000 miles away. Many people thought it was an impossible dream, but 400,000 of us set about making that dream a reality. It would be the longest, most hazardous voyage that any man had dared to attempt. But step by step, mission by mission, we orbited the Earth, perfecting the skills and technologies we would need on this incredible journey. Our astronauts practiced maneuvering, docking, and the 1,000 other tasks that would comprise the moon mission. We created new alloys, lighter and stronger than anything seen before. We designed communication systems that would be reliable over the vast distances. And behind it all, we tried to perfect the rocket that would be powerful enough to punch out of Earth orbit and take us to the moon. One day, however, the dream of flying to the moon almost slipped away. It was January 27th, 1967. Astronauts Virgil Gus Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chaffee were on board Apollo 1 for a plugs-out test, a full-scale dress rehearsal for the actual launch. Suddenly it happened. There was a fire in the capsule. 3 men whose lives had been in our hands were lost.
Surely the opening business of space promised high cost and hardships, as well as high reward. But this country of the United States was not built by those who waited and rested and wished to look behind them.
After Apollo 1, some thought we'd failed and that the moon was out of our reach. But we owed it to those men to learn from their sacrifice and to carry on. We started taking the Apollo vehicle apart, piece by piece. Was the design flawed? Had safety been compromised? Tough questions. And we spent 1.5 years redesigning the spacecraft so that no astronaut's life would ever be at risk because we overlooked something or because we could have done something better. A moon rocket is 91% high explosive, and it goes into the most unforgiving, hazardous environment there is. We could never make it risk-free, and the men who flew them knew that. We didn't send men into space again until Apollo 7 orbited the Earth testing some of the new designs. When everything worked perfectly, the decision was made. The next mission would travel to the moon. It was mankind's destiny to leave the shores of our planet behind and strike out across the vast ocean of space. In the great span of our history, now is the time that we could. Now is the time that we would. We stood on the eve of the longest, most dangerous journey that any man had ever undertaken. And it would be taken by Frank Borman, James Lovell, and William Anders, the crew of Apollo 8. Through those doors, you'll find the firing room, launch control, just as it was on December 21st, 1968.
Please gather all.
Wow.
For the comfort, safety, and viewing pleasure of all our guests, we ask that you refrain from flash photography for the duration of our presentation. If you must leave during the presentation,
This is the firing room, launch control for the Apollo missions. This is not a mock-up. These are the very consoles we sat at when men first took off to fly to the moon. The tragedy of Apollo 1 had put us a year and a half behind. We were making up for it in one big leap, and we were doing it with a rocket that no man had ever flown before. It was a few days before Christmas 1968 when Apollo 8 sat on the pad. She was the first of a new kind, a moon rocket. This was the Phoenix, risen from the ashes of Apollo 1. The first Apollo crew did not die in vain. This was to be their testament. "36 stories high, she had been fully fueled throughout the night. The liquid oxygen in her tanks caused ice to form on the outside of the craft. The extreme temperature differences between the air and the sub-zero fuel caused the metal skin of the rocket to expand and contract. Everyone who was on the pad agreed. It was as though the rocket was alive, breathing, straining at the leash. Earlier in the morning, astronauts Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders had made their final preparations before taking that long ride out to the waiting spacecraft. The minimum safe distance from a Saturn V at liftoff was 3 miles. The reason was simple. When fully fueled, the rocket contained the explosive power of an atomic bomb. As the clock counted down, the astronauts and all of us in launch control went through the pre-flight checks, our hands on the controls of the most powerful, most complex machine ever built. It had over 2 million separate systems, and to bring these men back alive, everything had to work perfectly. Each individual system had been tested, but what we didn't know was how they would perform when all 2 million began to work together. That moment would come when the countdown clock reached 0. If a maneuvering thruster failed, if communications broke down, if navigation was off by 1 degree, if any piece of the miles of wiring, circuits, relays, or valves was defective, Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders would pay with their lives. As they sat, waiting for launch on that chill December morning, these 3 astronauts were back to what they had always been, test pilots. You are now in the final minutes before the launch of Apollo 8, right here where it actually happened. Mankind is about to leave his planet behind and journey to another. It is one of those rare moments When history is not being made, destiny is being embraced.
TPSS, verify go for launch. TPSC, verify go for launch. SRO, verify go for launch. Dawn, verify go for launch. Yellow, verify go for launch. City test conference. Attention all personnel. Countdown clock will start on my mark. T-minus 3 minutes. 3, 2, 1, mark.
This is launch control. T-minus 3 minutes and counting. We have completed our communications checks with the Apollo 8 astronauts in the cabin, and the communications are go. During this period, once we do get the firing command, the various tanks within the 3 stages of the Saturn V launch vehicle begin to pressurize. We have firing command. The firing command is in. We're now on the automatic sequence. T-minus 2 minutes, 20 seconds, and counting. Our status board indicates that all aspects are ready. Instrument unit is ready. Spacecraft ready. Final check of the emergency detection system. That ready light also on. First stage preparations are completed.
All systems are heading okay.
Keep going.
We're on. Ready to go to cockpit.
Stand by motor. Okay, you're on.
All systems go.
1 minute 45 seconds and counting. The first stage liquid oxygen tank has been pressurized, and the pressure is still building up. Coming up in 90 seconds, mark, T-minus 90 seconds and counting. The Apollo 8 crew standing by, spacecraft commander Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, Bill Anders. We now report that the liquid hydrogen tank on the third stage is pressurized, 1 minute 15 seconds. All third stage propellants pressurized at this time as we come up on the 60-second mark on our flight to the moon. T-minus 60 seconds and counting. The vehicle now is completely pressurized. We're coming up on power transfer shortly. We have the power transfer. We're now on the flight batteries within the launch vehicle. Final reports coming from Frank Borman at this time. Final look at the
successfully orbited the moon, and the astronauts returned safely to the Earth. I know. I'm Jim Lovell, and I was one of the crew of this spacecraft, Apollo 8. We were the first men to see the surface of the moon from just a few miles away. But it was the hundreds of thousands of men and women who worked in that team, and the millions of people who supported the mission that really made it possible. That way, I guess, we all went to the moon. Now, on the other side of those doors, you'll find an actual Saturn V moon rocket. It's still the most powerful, the most complex machine ever built. And I guess it's the only one that can take you to another planet. I actually got to fly one on a second flight to the moon called Apollo 13. But that's another story.
Yeah, the ultimate road trip. Wow. This is incredible. How does it compare? More powerful than this is interesting. Fisher Space Pen.
If you look in front of you, you'll see a touchscreen, and if you touch some of the buttons on the screen, it'll ask questions, and I'll be very happy to answer them. We got to talking one day about we really need to do something a little different than just talking space talk on flight.
It's a timeline. This is a smaller model. Even this is really, really large. A lot of history here. Exploring the Valley of the Moon. Got moon fun facts. We got working on the moon. So we went to the moon and learned about Earth. Did you know? Yummy. That could be the first astronaut to drive on the moon. That'd be cool. Got Moonrock Cafe. Alright, so this is the menu. Lots and lots and lots of stuff. And just to the left of Moonrock Cafe, you got men's and women's restrooms. Got the lunar capsule. Here they are on the moon. The footy prints. Look at that. So this is an authentic lunar module. Exact replica of what was actually brought to the moon. Good forward hatch. Thruster rockets. Got the ascent engine. Shock absorbers. That's pretty important.
The next presentation in the Lunar Theater will begin in 3 minutes. Sorry about that. If you would like to join us, please proceed to the nose end of the Saturn V rocket. Thank you.
Training module. Interior. Exact replica. This was actually used as a training module. This was that very test vehicle. You see here that was in that picture. This one never went to space. This was just a test vehicle. Got lunar tool cart. Control part. Got lunar scoop. Very basic, isn't it? See a lunar scoop. Photo scale. So the tires are.
Interesting question.
Look at the tires. Isn't that sick?
I want to make it lighter. If it was too light, would it just float?
So there's a vehicle just like this, still up on the moon. So they had to assemble this thing once they got there. Off-world, off-roading. Space helmet. And space suit. We got the Right Stuff gift shop and the exit and bus boarding. So again, just like the little gift shop that I showed you at the other building, there's all sorts of stuff here. They have a lot of Apollo themed merchandise here. Plus they have a lot of just NASA themed stuff here.
National Wildlife Refuge. While the refuge in total takes up 140,000 acres,
Stuff you were talking
NASA only
about
occupies
earlier.
about 7,000 acres. Other than the few launch pads and facilities you see spotted across the horizon, this area remains a refuge for 150,000 species of plants and animals. I want to introduce you to Becky Bolt, who has been a NASA wildlife ecologist here at KSC for nearly 35 years. Becky, what kind of wildlife can we expect to see here today?
We have lots and lots of different kinds of wildlife. We have over 400 species that occur out here on the Space Center. Look in the ditches and you'll see lots of wading birds, tall herons, egrets, ibises. There's several species of those, and I can pretty much guarantee you're going to see some of those. We have bobcats, raccoons, all kinds of animals.
I love cats
What is
named
your
Bob.
role as a wildlife ecologist?
One of the main things we do is support operations. So people always think, oh, that's launch. Well, Kennedy Space Center is big and we have a lot of employees. It's like a city. We have lots of roads, we have lots of buildings. And so there's lots of maintenance and construction. So anything that might impact the habitat or wildlife, we have to go out and we check it out. And we work with the project managers to make sure that animals aren't harmed. Gopher tortoises are notorious for this. They go places where they shouldn't be, and sometimes we have to move them. We also support launches. We do a lot of research because we help the land managers, which on Kennedy Space Center, the land managers are the Fish and Wildlife Service, because this is a wildlife refuge. We have federally listed scrub jays and federally listed beach mice, which probably some watching us right now. And so we provide that data to them, so they know how to manage the land in the best way.
What are some of the more recent projects you've worked on here?
The most exciting new project that we have, and it's not really new, it started in 2010, but it's been ongoing since then, is our Created Dune project. We were having problems with when there are bad storms, hurricanes, which we get a fair amount. It was destroying our primary dune here, and we were getting washover that was getting closer and closer to facilities. We created dunes and took lots of sand and spread it out and piled it up and planted it with native vegetation.
Oh yeah, because you can see there's a launch pad right here, the ocean's right there. And the dune is protecting it.
Right.
Well, Becky, thank you so much for teaching us how nature meets technology here at KSC, and hopefully our guests on our tour will see some of this wildlife today.
All right, so I'm going to show you the world's largest NASA gift shop. So this is the same gift shop where I got my hat when we first got here. This place got all sorts of different stuff. Kennedy Space Center books, got lots of different plush. All sorts of different stuff over here. Of course, the good old classic name mugs. And one thing you will find in here is lots and lots and lots of different types of shirts and sweaters, sweatshirts, hoodies, jackets. Got shirts for the little ones. Now I picked up a magnet earlier, so while I'm not getting anything else here, I'm just showing you just all the different stuff they have. You also have different types of candy, astronaut ice cream, got freeze-dried ice cream sandwiches. This is interesting. The worm logo. It's called the worm logo. And the meatball insignia. You find the NASA seal. We've got mouse pads, postcards. Not that anybody really sends postcards anymore, but they got them. All sorts of different charms and chains, so there's pretty much something in here for everybody. We learned about space pens earlier. You get them here in the gift shop. The space pens are $24.99. Guaranteed to run upside down at any angle. Extreme temperatures, underwater, over grease. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for my visit to Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. I had a phenomenal time. As I stated earlier, I was here like probably a good 40 years ago. I know absolutely nothing about the way it was back then, but I'm assuming this place is completely different than what it was back in the early 80s. So leave some comments down below what your favorite part of my experience was today. There was so much cool stuff, very informative, learned a lot of really interesting artifacts, scale models, replicas, actual real used in space equipment, so that was really, really neat to see. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, I go to places like this, theme parks, zoos, aquariums, other roadside attractions all over the country. If you're interested in any of that, I think you will like my channel. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.